Hold it. Hey there, everybody. It's Dave here from Good Morning Gallahorn with the premiering of 15 Minutes with Flip Mozzie live. It is day 7 of Vlogmas 2020, and we are bringing you outstanding content, or trying to at least, about your Minnesota Vikings and the rest of the league. Flip, you're on the clock.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. Let's go. I know we got some people in the comments joining us. Great to see you again, Skull Vikings. Dave and I are going to be breaking down the Vikings playoff picture in depth. So thank you for spending halftime with me and Dave. If you're a subscriber, you know that I'm finally excited to talk about the Vikings playoff chances now that they've climbed their way back to 500. And if you're not a subscriber, well, what are you waiting for? Get on, hop on, start listening to Climbing the Pocket and Daily Norseman. We're doing great things on YouTube. But I'll stop wasting time. We've only got 15 minutes, so let's talk about where the Vikings currently stand. Dave, can you pull up the first metric?
Sure.
So this is the current playoff picture. As most of you know, the Vikings are currently the NFC's 7th seed. If they hold this position, they'll be the first NFC 7 seed in NFL history. Since this year, it's the first year that the NFL has expanded to their 14-team playoff format. Now, most fans will start looking at the possible playoff matchups. I think we'd play the Packers right now. It's a little early to do that, y'all. There's 4 games left, and you can see both below and above the Vikings, the NFC is actually really flat. There's 10 teams within 3 wins of each other. That's 60% of the conference. So I promise you one thing. The matchups on the potential playoff matchups, those are going to change. They aren't important right now. Now, what is important being in the 7th seed right now means the Vikings control their own destiny 100%. If they win the next 4, they'll be in the playoffs without help. If they miss the playoffs, it'll be because they lose a key game here in the last 4. So we only need to scoreboard watch if the Vikings lose. And Minnesota, they've earned the right to control their own fate. A tough 1-5 start to the season, but they battled back, winning 5 of their last 6. No one's satisfied right now with 6-6, but there is a reward for that, and that's the fact that the playoffs sit in front of them, 4 games away. They're for the taking. Dave, you think we're going to see this team go 4-0?
I hope so, but I suspect maybe 3-1, most likely 2-2 to finish 8-8, and they'll be right there.
Okay.
Who knows?
Okay. So, anywhere between 8-8 to 10-6, there's a lot of variance there.
Because, like you said, there's a good chunk of the NFC that's all sitting in that one area, and it may go down to the week 17 to figure out whose tiebreaker beats whose to slip in.
Right, exactly. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about, Dave, because most fans don't expect the Vikings to go 4-0 down the stretch and end up at 10-6. So the next question is, which remaining games are the most important? Is it the divisional games, Chicago and Detroit, or is it the NFC South games against Tampa Bay and New Orleans? And if you're thinking that the Vikings end up 2-2, then I've got some really good information for you coming up here as we go through halftime. That's going with the 538 has this playoff predictor. I think Dave has the most recent standings here and the most recent playoff odds. I recommend 538. Most people use ESPN's playoff machine, but I like to see all the numbers and the probabilities so we can tell where the must-have games are.
Mm-hmm. And sorry, this graphic is so small. I'll try to focus in a little bit more next time, drop off some of those bottom teams. I did hear today, though, if the Vikings beat Tampa, that probability percentage shoots up at 70-something%.
Yeah, you can see right here before going into week 14, 538 gives Minnesota a 38% chance of making the playoffs. Arizona's at 34%. San Francisco is at 38%. We're at halftime of their game against the Bills right now. So remember, I know a lot of people want to watch this game. We'll see who wins, Buffalo or San Francisco, but because we're caring about the Vikings, we don't need to scoreboard watch just yet. The Vikings games matter the most first. And, as Dave said, all else equal, the NFC South games matter more than the NFC North games remaining on the Vikings schedule. This is takeaway number 1.
Yeah, because we're not going to win the division.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So if the Vikings beat Tampa Bay, their playoff odds go from 38% to 71%. That's by far the most important game remaining. If the Vikings lose week 14 against Tampa Bay, their playoff odds go down to 21%. So there's a 50% swing in playoff probability just based on this Buccaneers game next week. It's a huge game. It's a must-win game.
And
now,
I'm hoping the Vikings play up to their opponents in this game versus the last few games where they played down, and we get a good game. They have a possibility of pulling it out, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah. Yeah, and we got shows all week. We got Vlogmas going. I'm sure that the crew is going to talk about our chances in that game. But I just want everybody to know it is huge. It is a massively important game for the Vikings playoff chances. Now, the Bears and Lions games are less important. The Saints game is the second most important. It's weird for the Bears and Lions games to not matter, but like Dave, you said, that's because the NFC North crown, the Vikings don't have a realistic shot at that. Green Bay is 3 games ahead. And, I'll say this so everybody knows. If Minnesota somehow does catch up to Green Bay, let's say Minnesota goes 4-0 and Green Bay goes 1-3, both teams finish at 10-6. No matter what, the Minnesota Vikings win the NFC North if that happens.
Wow.
So that possibility is out there. They will get all the tiebreakers if they can somehow tie their record with Green Bay. So
I would suggest
that's not in their own destiny, but go ahead.
I would suggest that let's get through week 14 against Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And if we win, then we can start drilling into schedules for those teams that matter.
Well, again, if they win, we don't have to care about schedules because it's just win. Vikings win. That's all that matters. We only have to care about other team schedules if the Vikings lose.
Yeah, but if Green Bay loses and we win, I'm going to start looking at what's it going to take to win the division.
Well, I just told you, get to 10-6 and hope Green Bay ends up at 10-6. We automatically got it. So the big dream is out there too. So, that's why the division games aren't that important. Now, the 49ers and Saints games, those games help with our conference record, which is a key tiebreaker in the NFC playoffs. That's the reason why this game right now between the 49ers and Bills isn't too important, because San Francisco's playing an AFC team. So we're waiting for the big Tampa Bay, the big games. That's NFC versus NFC. Games are best when those stakes are high. And it's the best part of the season where we've got all 4 games remaining against NFC opponents. And again, the NFC is flat. So we're in a month where every week, every game, every play is going to matter. 10 teams battling for 6 spots. The roller coaster continues, and there's going to be heaps and heaps of relevant football. So glad our Vikes are in this conversation.
Yeah, so am I. We didn't expect it after week 6. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I know. So I think the final question here, or I'll go to the big question that's on everybody's mind. It looks like, people are saying Vikings. Jerome is saying he sees us at 8-8. Mary Fisk is saying she sees us at 8-8. Everybody's saying 8-8, 8-8, 8-8. Well, 8-8, this wild card dream of just getting to 8-8, that's just not as easy as it sounds. So 8-8 isn't created equal. It matters who they get those 2 wins against and who they lose those 2 games to. So if you just hope we're going to beat Chicago and Detroit and get to 8-8 and get into the playoffs, I don't have good news for you, because when you run that through the 538 simulator, all else being equal, if the Vikings are 8-8 with wins over Chicago and Detroit, their chances of making the playoffs are 32%. That's just as low as it was a couple weeks ago when the Vikings didn't even have a winning record. So you can't just, expect them to beat Chicago flat NFC and have that be enough. You need a big win against the Saints or the Buccaneers at least for that 2-2 to get to that 2-2 record. Hopefully you go 2-2 by beating the Buccaneers and the Saints, and those hard wins give you a 47% chance of making the playoffs, even if thank you, Marky Mark, watching the show. Love to have you, man. Yeah, like win those hard games, you have a 47% chance. Win the easy games, you have a 32% chance. So it's even not enough to just, go go 8-8 against the easy, clean up against the easy teams with fired head coaches and hope we make the playoffs. No, we need more than that. We need to challenge the Vikings to do more than that.
Absolutely. Well, I said you're on the clock. The clock has run out. Till tomorrow for Vlogmas Day 8, when we have another show at 9 p.m. Eastern Time live. This is your Climbing the Pocket Network with 15 minutes with Flip Mozzie live. Skol!
Thanks, y'all. Thanks, y'all, Skol Vikes. I have plenty of playoff stats I'll be sharing on Twitter, so I'll see you there.